Did you have a handout or not, Billy?
I do.
I printed off what we had in the last email.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the USB work session for July the 10th, 2024. If I can get a roll call, Mr. Fetty.
We got Board Member Tony Abbott,
Here.
Board Member Tommy Roulette,
Present.
Board Member Lenny Fryman. Here. Board Member Brett Mondurant.
Yes, sir.
City Attorney Dale Weldon.
Here.
Utility Director Billy Kennett.
Here. Thank you, sir.
President Kelly Malone.
Here.
Myself.
Okay. Tonight's topic is the rate study.
That's it right there.
You want to kick it off for us?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good.
So we had our last work session back in April, and there's a lot of things that, a lot of discussions that were had between now and then. So hopefully tonight we'll be able to get a path going forward to finalize the rate study. And that way, we can move on with the process. Some of the things that have been talked about, a lot of discussion on the amount of capital on the deferred projects that we've done. Everybody knows the situation we're in. We're losing money each year pretty significantly in water and in sewer. Electric is holding its own very well. So coming out of the last work session, we looked at options of how to fund the capital money we need for water and sewer. And the capital money for the projects, the 5-year projects, the planned projects that we have, are to the tune of $6 million in water and $12 million in sewer. The city has been gracious enough to pledge $3 million to the water as part of the sale of the fiber. So that takes us down to a $3 million need for water. If we looked at it a couple different ways. If we would cash flow the money that we need for water and sewer for the capital projects over a 5-year plan, that's a substantial increase in the rate. One of the things that came out of the last work session is, and really after the work session, we talked about it during the work session, what if we would borrow money from the city, and the city has said that they would lend us the money we needed at 0% interest for a 15-year term. That significantly reduces the burden on the rate by doing it that way. So we wanted to take a look at what does that look like in the rate. So what we did, we've got 2 scenarios in front of you. One that's just a break-even that gets us that roughly $500,000 that we're losing. It gets us to break even. Now that still funds the depreciation as well. We don't want to go backwards. We want to stay where we're at. So just to break even is one scenario, and then the second scenario is with capital and at 0% interest on a 15-year term. So those are the 2 options that we wanted to look at tonight. As far as the electric, and by the way, this is a working dinner, so for the public, you see us up here feeding our face. We're trying to be efficient with our time, and so this is a working dinner. With the electric, we are in good shape as far as the rate goes. One of the concerns we had in the last work session was the base rate. We were looking at an increase in that. USB board wasn't crazy about that, so we don't have to do that. There's other ways of doing it, and so we ended up taking it back to the same base rate as what we have right now for the service charge, for the meter charge. So we took that back to where it is right now. We do have the ECA tracker, the IMPA ECA tracker, and that's what, that increases with what we pay for our power. And that increases or decreases each quarter. And that has kept us in alignment with the electric rate. So we're in good shape there. What we're planning to do is to reset that tracker. So that tracker will go back to zero. The cost increase will be embedded in the rate, but the net increase is going to be zero. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay. So there's no impact on the electric as far as the residential, typical residential rate. We also, with the electric, are proposing new rate structures to make it fair and even across the board for the rates. Our existing rate structure hits the small businesses pretty hard. They're paying a very high cost per kilowatt hour. We want to make that fair and equitable. We want all the rates to be fair and equitable across the board. So we do have some new rate structures that we'll put in place for the electric to even out the playing field across all the different rate bases. But as far as electric, it's zero to nominal impact on what the new rates will be compared to the existing rates. Be a different structure because we're resetting the ECA. The cost per kilowatt hour will go up, the cost per KW will go up, but the net increase is zero or pretty close to zero.
We're
So
basically just fixing the demand rates primarily for, to better match with the way IMPA charges us. And I don't think that was really an issue at the last, it's really been the water and sewer has been
Right.
the ones we've been wrestling with.
Yeah, so electric, I think everybody should agree or would agree that, you know, we're good with that. We're making some adjustments, we're doing some things. You know, we can talk about it later on in the meeting, but for the electric, we should be good. I wanted to address the sewer next. And we have two scenarios there. We have a break-even scenario that gets us back where we're not losing money, but we're not funding the capital. And then the second option is if we fund the $12 million in capital. If you look at the first scenario, just the break-even scenario, it's a zero increase in the rate. And the reason for that, right now, we're not billing for loadings and affluent. And with a change in the rate structure for the sewer, we'll be able to bill that. And we used to be able to bill it. Things changed when the sewer plant changed the way they billed us, so we could no longer bill it as part of our rate tariff. And so now we're going to put that back in the rate tariff where we can build that. So that is the loadings and the fluid hit the large industrial customers.
And we met with those two industrial, customers.
Yeah. And so the net increase in the residential sewer rate is zero. So that resets that to, you know, there's no increase as far as the sewer rate. There is a nominal increase. It's not nominal. There is an increase.
If we do the $4 million loan,
I'm sorry.
if we do the $4 million loan,
It's 12 million.
oh,
Yeah, there's 12 million.
That's option 2, correct?
Yeah, option 2. Yeah, so if you look at option 2, it's borrowing 12 million over the 15-year period. And the way we have it set up right now, year one,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
there's no increase. Year two, there's a 23.1% increase, which is a total of $5.70 per month. And then in year 3, 4, and 5, there's a 2% increase, which is 61 cents a month, 62, 63 cents a month. You can see that on that table. So the impact is, not that great when we're borrowing the 12 million. The reason it's 0% in the first year, we won't need to borrow any money until the second year. So that's a reason that 23.1% kicks in the second year. Now, another option that we can do here is instead of, and that 23.1 gets us back to where we need to be financially. Another option for that is to level it across the 5-year plan. So instead of doing a 23% increase the first year, 2%, the second year, 2%, years 3, 4, and 5, we could do it even across the board as far as increases. That might be, maybe an increase of maybe 8% for each year, or roughly right in that area. So that is an option to talk about. So I would like to focus first here on the sewer. Option 1, we need that to break even. Option 2, without any capital funding. Option 2 gets us break even, and then we'll be funding that through borrowing money from the city over the 15-year plan. My preference, my recommendation would be to go to option 2, which is to do the break-even scenario and then borrow the money from the city, borrow the $12 million over the 15-year term. And the reason for that, the first scenario, you're looking at gotta look at the right page. It's a net zero across the board over the 5 years as far as any increase. If we borrow the money, you're looking at over the 5 years, it's a $7.56 per month increase. To me, that's a very minor. In this economy, every penny counts, but I still think that's one heck of a deal for our ratepayers if their bill is going up $7.56 over the next 5 years, and especially since our rates are some of the lowest in the state to begin with. This is a very creative way. We thank the city for being able to offer this to us. It's a very creative way in helping keep our increases as low as possible for the ratepayers. So my recommendation would be to go ahead and with scenario 2, with it would be a $7.56 increase per month over the 5-year period. So just like to
On
open that up.
wastewater.
Yeah, for the sewer, yeah. So I'd like to open that up for comments, discussions. Buzz, do you have anything to
Yeah,
add to that?
You're I put a little executive summary on the first page, and you're kind of hitting all the nails on the head here.
Okay.
Well, let's, I think we obviously understand the gist of everything you're suggesting, because we had numerous. Yeah, Stephen?
I was told that having some trouble getting up on the projector.
I think we're okay.
Yeah, we may not need it, but,
We got handouts, don't we, Buzz?
yeah, I've got handouts. And,
Okay, so the total then, Billy, what you're suggesting is over 5 years, it would be, for the sewer, would be a total of $7 and, what is it? 56 cents?
Yeah.
Okay, and it looks like the second year will be the $5.70. years after that are 61, 62, and 63 cents.
Correct.
If we wanted, we could split that out over 5 years
Yeah.
and just do $1 whatever a year.
Yeah. That's probably the best scenario to do that. I think we'll be
Yep.
okay financially.
Yeah, really, once we fix the loading billings with the industrial customers, and we're sort of making MGPI a wholesale customer because their volumes are so great. But that makes us whole, basically, right now. Now, then, when we borrow the funds, you know, we've probably got enough in our existing funds to make those payments over, you know, until we get the rate up to, you know, the 570 would produce that $800,000 a year.
So would that be the recommendation, Kelly, is to spread it out evenly over 5 years?
That's me talking. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I think it would be easier on the, it's minor,
Yeah.
trust me, but it's, I think it would just be more
Be easier on the residents.
easier on
Yeah.
ratepayers.
Yeah, this is definitely the best way to go. And like I said, you know, we're talking about a significant decrease as to where we were at in the last work
Oh, yeah.
session. You know, and it's being able to borrow that money from the city at 0% interest over a 15-year term that gets us there. Otherwise, we're talking significant increases if we have to go out and borrow it on the open market, or if we try to, especially if we try to cash flow it.
The cash flow one was a killer, yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions out of you, Mr. Fetty, about, I think we've talked
No,
about this quite a bit.
I've talked to Billy several times, and it's definitely doable, and he understands the situation.
Mayor?
Yes,
The only question I would have, well, this is in turn will make the water and sewer department more sustainable. We will be putting money aside for things in the near future that may break down, like what depreciation fund.
Yeah.
We would
We'll
still
be
be,
putting money back into depreciation.
We-
So we're not going to go backwards.
Right, we're fully funded depreciation as well as
Okay.
borrowing the capital money.
And
We don't
getting-
want to go backwards.
No, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to continue to be gracious to city to give the money at 0% loan or interest, whatever, but still, we need to build the coffers up, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I want to make sure that's what we're doing, because it seems like in the past that we really haven't.
But
That's where we're
Got to
at.
realize that a lot
Does
of
that make
that,
sense?
a lot of that depreciation is going to go towards payment back to the city.
yeah, well,
I'm getting that.
well, we have a separate,
Not all of it.
we have a separate line item for the debt service on that option 2, where option 1, we're able to fund when we fix the industrial rates, we're able to fund the cash operating expenses and depreciation without any residential rate increase. If borrowing the 12 million, I've got a typo on the first page, but it's correct in the option 2 handout. The 12 million would take $800,000 a year to pay that back over 15 years. And so that's where that $5.70 increase comes. Now, I would maybe recommend a little bit more front-loading that first year and then maybe a little less on the other years, because we're going to have to start paying the $800,000 in year 2.
Not necessarily, because we're
Well, that's,
talking about,
yeah, it's interest-free, so I mean, if,
well, and here's the thing, you're not going to borrow all 12 million at the same at once.
that's true too, yeah.
So you're only going to be
Good
paying
point.
back as you're borrowing it. So 800,000 would not be having to be paid back.
That's true, yeah.
In year 2. So that's why I was saying, split it out over 5 years, the rate.
we'll be okay by doing that. We can do that.
Yeah.
And it makes it nicer and cleaner,
Yeah.
lessens the burden in that second year.
And what that all, in layman's terms, so I understand it, it gets us the depreciation funded, but also it gets us back to where we're breaking even with our operational expenses.
Right.
We're not losing money
Well,
any
and
longer.
the third item that Buzz is talking about, it also funds that $12 million. So there's really 3 things. It gives us Scenario one gets us the operating expense, gets us back to even with the operating expense and funds the depreciation.
Right, right.
Option two gets us break even on the operations, funds the depreciation, and then funds the $12 million cap. So that's what Tommy was concerned
I think that's
about.
backwards.
We're not going backwards and not funding depreciation going forward. The depreciation's still figured in
Okay.
there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, last year, we had a $550,000 drop in the operating fund. Our depreciation fund, though, because we were making some transfers there, went up about $250,000, so you had a net cash flow loss of about $300,000 in 2023. But like you say, we fixed that industrial surcharges, and then we're made whole. You know, that'll fund O&M and the depreciation transfers. And you're right, Mayor, if we borrow the money, stagger how we borrow the money to just match we wouldn't need that 800,000 in the first. I didn't have anything in year one, you know, year two I put in the full 800, but we could spread that out because depending on, you know, how the actual capital outlays get laid out, if they are done evenly over, you know, the first year you might only need 150 or 200,000.
And the reason we don't need any increase in the first year is we have a little bit over $1 million in the capital reserve for sewer right now. And so we can pay engineering expenses and things like that out of the existing reserve. So
Okay.
that's the reason year one, we're still going to need money because we have to pay for the engineering, but we've got enough in capital reserve right now to pay
Okay.
for that.
And just so everybody knows, year one will be 2025. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Starting January of 2025. Okay.
I got one more question. On the industrial part of that, are we going to be billing them? We, the city of Lawrenceburg, Ross Squibb and them? How's that work?
Yeah, so,
Well, I know we do, but I'm saying with this, so this will be written into the ordinance where we're seeing how, okay,
yeah.
that this is being built.
What we did with that was we mimicked what we're being billed by
Okay.
the sewer district, and then basically put an ad on it for what margins we need from what we pay the sewer district, and that way we know we're whole.
And it'll be spelled out in our ordinance.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
Actually, we had a draft of that ordinance. We'll just have to tweak that. I think we prepared some ordinances back in August or September last year, but obviously, we haven't tried to retweak those yet until we decide on, you know, what we're doing here, but I'll coordinate that with you.
We've talked to MGP and gave them two options. One, Buzz created a wholesale rate form, so if they want to go on that wholesale rate, they can do that. If they go on that wholesale rate, we'll have an agreement in place like the sewer district had with MGP, where the affluent line is responsibility of MGP. So we gave them two scenarios. If you go on the wholesale rate, you take over the responsibility of the affluent lines, and you know, we can do the maintenance, but they reimburse us for all that. They would have to do any replacements or anything.
Yeah.
So if they choose to do the wholesale rate, that they'll have to do an agreement with us, just like
Okay.
they did with the sewer district. It'll pretty much be the same type of agreement.
And it'll be spelled out industrial line.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Good,
And,
good deal, good deal.
If they choose not to do the wholesale rate, then they go on the regular retail rate.
Which is higher.
Yeah, and then we would still have the responsibility of the affluent line.
Yeah, that's a good deal, getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the way I see it then, if we spread this particular rate increase over 5 years, approximately $1.51 a month.
Right.
For tonight's purposes, what do you want from us at tonight?
So we need to figure what our path forward is. So we need to basically finalize what our strategy is going to be for these rates. So Buzz can complete his rate study, and then we can formally start it through the process, through the approval process. So tonight, what we're hoping to do is come up with, okay, this is our path forward. We know with electric what we need to do. This discussion tells us what to do with sewer, and then we'll have another discussion, and hopefully we'll come up with a plan for water. And then we'll have, okay, for all three utilities, we're going to do this, this, and this. That's our plan going forward. Buzz can finish his rate study, and then we start the approval process.
And final approval will be, when we approve the ordinance.
Yeah, we'll have to have an introduction and
Okay.
then schedule a public hearing.
So do we need any kind of motion to approve them to move on option 2 for the sewer, or we just say yay? Move that direction?
Well, I think we want to determine if we want to spread it out over 5 years.
Well, I mean, we can put that in there as well. I'm just, they're looking for direction, so do we just say that? And then we pass it in our USB meeting, or?
I think we can do that.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't-
we gotta pick a version of this,
Yeah, we are, that's what we're
because
saying.
then we've gotta start the approval process.
That's what yeah.
That's what we just said, though. I mean,
So do we need
we
a-
need a formal vote?
Do we need
To move on this option,
Yes, I mean.
he's
you're-
gotta have direction.
Yeah, I mean, we're voting tonight to pick one of these options, and then we'll start the approval process, so we won't.
The final
everyone
approval will
will
be
have
the
an
USB.
Yeah, I mean,
Something not to
it
cut you
depends
off,
on what everyone's flavor is. I know we've got 2 people that aren't here,
Oh, where he went.
one person that's not here, but I mean, it is a little different because we're kind of locking ourselves into one option, but we don't have a choice. So the board will still have the final approval over that option, but we can't publish rates with 2 different options. We've got
Right.
to lock in a version of this, and it'll either pass or not pass. So I would say the version, and then we talked about some tweaks too, in addition to just the versions that came here. So just want to make sure we give Buzz clear instruction, and then you guys are comfortable, because that'll end up being the final version that gets published and eventually voted on.
Yeah, I think the sewer, that's a workable plan to do basically a $1.51 increase on residential for the next 5 years. Because once we fix that loading charge, we're much stronger. That's been the problem, just the last couple of years. But water is a little bit,
Let's finish up sewer
Yeah.
first. Okay, so what I've heard and what I'm hearing is that I think we like option 2 and spreading it out over 5 years, the increase, the total increase, which is $7.56 over the 5 years instead of over 4 years or whatever. Anybody disagree with that?
I do not, Mayor.
I don't.
Okay, so I think then the first motion I'd like to ask for is motion to approve the wastewater utility option would be option number 2 as we're looking at this, where the $7.56 over a 5-year period is split out over 5 years, which comes to approximately $1.51 a month.
I'm all in favor of that. I think it's easier on the ratepayers, but should we vote on this now without all of us being here?
Well,
Mr.
We're looking
Dillon?
for direction tonight.
this is for direction.
We're just giving them
motion.
direction to get this
The
together.
ordinance is
and then-
final approval.
Yes, and we gotta approve it in at USB meeting.
All right.
That's why I was motioning here, like, hey, get in there and this.
Would you have a special resolution at that, or just the ordinance for the USB? Would they make a recommendation to the council to,
You mean to pick one of these options?
well,
I mean,
when it's
typically.
finalized.
Tonight's not official, but it's kind of
No,
giving
I
us the
mean,
direction.
Yeah, typically, we would have our rate study person come to us with one option, and that would just be published and voted on. I mean, this is better because he's kind of, Billy and Buzz are kind of letting you guys see how the sausage is made, so you can pick between multiple options and make kind of tweaks to it. So that's why we're adding this additional step, and it does seem awkward, but it's actually a benefit to you guys, because Buzz didn't just say, here's one option, this is what we're voting on. He gave you different options, and we've made a couple even tweaks to that second option tonight. But once we approve that second option with the tweaks that the mayor outlined, that is the version that will get published, but it still has to be voted on. People can vote for it or against it.
Right.
And you could even send it back to the drawing board when we get to the end. So nothing's final today. We just need some version to then vote on. So you would just, and Buzz, to answer your question, it would just be a vote, a verbal vote at this meeting to authorize you to proceed, and you and I proceed.
Coordinate
to
the
develop
rate.
Those ordinances. and
But
start
does the board, the utility board, do just a verbal recommendation, or do they need a special resolution?
There's a verbal vote.
Good.
in
For
minutes.
this year.
Yep.
Yes.
What we can do is get the ordinance prepared and present it to the utility board, and then they make that recommendation to
No, I
council.
think
Or is that-
No, I appreciate that, but I mean, we don't need that extra step.
Okay,
They're gonna vote tonight to pick the versions
gotcha.
that they want to move forward with any tweaks. You'll go back, you'll do exactly what these guys have outlined.
Yep.
They're gonna do a majority vote, it'll be in the minutes, and then we can move straight to
To the
putting it
council.
in an ordinance and starting the publication, public hearing
Yep.
schedule. That's a lengthy process, so there's plenty of scrutiny and opportunity to look at it. And so we don't need that extra step. We're going straight to,
Good.
hey, let's
Okay.
roll this out. And we're still gonna have a opportunity. Dylan will be here. There'll be a vote with the whole board. Plenty of time to scrutinize it and do whatever you like, so.
And Dylan and I have been in communications today, and I told him I would give him an update of, what we talked about, what we have going forward, and make sure he's fully informed of what's going on.
Yeah, usually it doesn't go like this. You guys are actually getting to work on the project in the middle, so that's kind of a good.
Right, this is
thing.
kind of a
Plus, really
work
good.
session, a working session. right?
Yeah, it's a great way to do it.
Okay. You want me to reword it?
I think you're fine, Mayor. Did we capture all of the changes? So you just, the vote on the table is for option 2
And to split
with
it up 5
spreading it
years.
out. And that's.
Right.
5-year even phase.
Split it out over 5 years,
Okay.
yes.
Spreading it out over 5 years,
Yes.
which comes to approximately $1.51 a month.
Yep.
That explains it out to the public.
Yep.
Questions? Entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's get a roll call since we got an absence.
We got Board Member Tony Abbott,
Aye.
Board Member Tommy Roulette,
Aye.
Board Member Lenny Fryman. Board Member Brett Bondurant. And of course, Board Member Dylan Little's absent.
So passes 4-0 to move forward with that option. Okay.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Next one is water.
Yeah, moving on to water.
What?
We have the same scenario, or same options put together with the water. With the sewer, being able to build the loadings and the effluent, that helped us out to get us back to break even.
Yeah.
We don't have that luxury with water. The existing rate is what it is. The rate structures are not changing. And so just to get us back to break even, and again, the options that Buzz put together was to get us back to break even in year 1, and then, which is an increase of $17.43 in the first year. And then years 2, 3, 4, and 5, it's a 2% increase, which is 90 cents, 92, 94, 95 cents per month for those. So, it's a substantial increase for water, but again, we're roughly $500,000 in the negative right now. We have been operating in a negative. We had enough reserves. We knew we could kind of ride the storm out until we finished the rate study. But this scenario one gets us back to break even. It still funds the depreciation account, just like what we did with the sewer. So this is a break even of what we have right now with no capital involved. You're looking at, it's a $21.14 increase per month over the 5-year span. So pretty significant increase for water. But again, we're so far behind and we're losing so much money that we need this to get caught up.
Yeah, last year, the operating fund dropped about 400,000 in the water.
Do we have asking you, Billy, do we have the similar option of spreading this out over 5 years instead of?
So this is the break-even scenario. This has no capital built into it whatsoever, except for the depreciation,
Right.
funded depreciation. So,
Okay.
the second option,
Okay.
we need a total of $6 million. The $3 million that's going to come out of the capital for the fiber fund. So the total spend we need for water over the 15-year period is $3 million. And so what that does to the rate, it's not that substantial of an increase to go ahead and fund that $3 million over the 15 years. So just to get a break-even scenario, we're looking at $21.14 a month. If we fund the $3 million we need for the capital over the 15 years, it takes it to $25.21 per month for that increase over the 5-year span. So my recommendation would be to go ahead and include the $3 million in capital. Scenario 2, so we'd be borrowing $3 million from the city at 0% interest, 15 years term, and that increase would be $25.21. The difference between scenario 1 and scenario 2 is $4.07 per month. So, pretty nominal,
Per month?
per month, $4.07 per month, if we fully fund the capital.
No, it's not per month.
Additional is what he means.
Additional.
Additional from
Additional,
option one to option two.
Option 2 is $4.07.
More.
More.
Yeah. The other one was 21.14, this would be 25.21. Yeah, I got you.
That's that's over 5 years though.
But it's,
Well,
yeah, it's per month. These rates are per month. So, you see that?
No, I'm not, because you add the 5 up and you get to 25.21 over 5 years.
Right.
So you take that, divided by 5, it's $5.04 a month. Am I not looking at it right?
well, I think we need more on the front end of this one than,
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
it ends up 25.21 in year 5, but to get to cover our cash operating expense and depreciation, that's where we really need the 1743. Now, if we,
Yeah, but what we're trying to get straight on that, because we can talk about that
Yeah.
in a minute. It's the net increase over the 5-year.
Yeah, the net increase over the 5 years, what I'm saying is right, 25.21.
Yep.
Okay? 25.21 and, right, the difference is $4 over the 5 years, right?
Yeah,
That's what you're saying.
yeah.
What I'm saying, though, people are they're gonna look at this, how much is it gonna cost me more per month?
right,
Not over 5 years, but per month, starting year one.
Gotcha, okay.
So that's what I think people are gonna be wondering about. That's where I was going with it, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I didn't
so if we do.
explain that right.
If we do scenario one, they're looking at $21.14 a month. If we do scenario two, they'd be looking at $25.
Let's rephrase that.
Do one.
That is not month one of year one will not be $21.
Yep.
Right,
But that's what they're gonna hear out here.
oh, okay.
You follow me?
I got you, yeah.
If we do option one, it would be $4.23 a month if we spread it out over 5 years.
Yep.
We'll get to your point, Buzz.
Yeah.
You follow me?
Yeah,
But if we do option two, it'd be $5.04 a month. That's what people would notice on there.
okay.
We would still be deficit cash flow for the
Yeah, I
first.
just mean to-
No, that's okay. And what Buzz is saying is.
You need
we
front
don't-
end.
We don't have the luxury of spreading this over 5 years. We need the money to get caught back up in year one.
For the operational more than on capital.
Yeah,
Well, I'm-
Now-
because with water, we don't have much reserve left in our operating fund. That's getting way low. And we had some investments for those operating funds. We're pulling those investments because that is coming, we're below the.
You need the
comfort
cash
level.
flow.
Yeah. So we don't have the luxury of spreading this over the 5 years. We need to get us to break even in year
Got it.
one, because the cash flow is extremely tight.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm seeing right here is I'm seeing that right now the current is 2767, and the year one it would go up. This is the break even one, it go up to 45, which is a difference of $17.43. So right away, the very first year, their water bill would go up $17.43.
If you fully fund depreciation.
I got the break even one.
That's the break
Yeah,
even.
That's.
Because well, that's actually the same amount on option two.
It probably is the same.
It is.
I think it changes later.
Because the capital doesn't kick in until the second year.
Until the year two. So, yeah, it looks like it's $17.43 a month more year one.
Yeah, either option is.
And then after that, it just slowly, just a little bit,
Right.
Right?
from there, it just gradually.
After that, it's $1 a month.
Yeah,
You know.
the more than what it was, yeah.
Okay, so with either option, we're looking at a $17.43 increase to Joe Public's water bill, plus, let's say it's $1.51 on the
Sewer.
sewer. So we're looking at approximately $19 a month in increase in utilities,
Yeah,
year one.
For year one, yeah.
Okay, $19. Okay.
Financially, that would be the ideal thing, Anything less than that, we wouldn't be fully funding depreciation. And that, I think, was your goal before you retire, that you wanted to see that.
and, it was a pretty substantial increase we were talking about before if we cash flow this thing. So, again, this is,
Our current revenues are about $300,000 short of just covering our cash operating costs. And then depreciation on top of that's another $500,000 or better, so.
But what really this year one in the water utility does is gets us to a break even, which it's actually been subsidized or they've been living off of, dollars that were in the account, instead of pushing the increases onto the customer.
yeah.
And now, we're at a point where the increases, just to get to the break-even point, has to be done.
When were the water rates established last? Do you have that?
It's 2014.
2014, so about 10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
So there hadn't been an increase in 10 years.
So there's no way we can lessen that amount on the first year?
No, we gotta
I mean,
have that.
I hate-
That's just to break even, you know. And, you know, I was thinking about it, last night. We look at our financial scorecard every month, and we've cut costs, we've trimmed down the number of employees, we've done everything we can do to get our costs down to this point. So this is truly a break even, you know, to be able to sustain the services that we provide with the employees we currently have on staff. This $17 increase that gets us to break even. That's how much money we're losing each month on the water. And so that $17.43 gets us back to the break even of what our costs are.
Well, and remember, and it's been 10 years since we've adjusted the water rates, and but how often is it recommended that you change your rates and refresh your rates?
You know, probably every 3 years is probably a good rule of thumb.
Yeah. And we just haven't done that. So we haven't done it every 3 years like we should have, or else these increases would be less. And remember, 10 years ago, when we did do a rate adjustment, we were still not paying, the city was still subsidizing overhead, so we didn't have true numbers even then.
It's a great point.
So that wasn't even a good comp. I'd say the last time we did an actual healthy rate study could be 30 years ago, you know, because the structure of the utilities changed so much under Billy to run at a break even, but run so it sustains itself. And that's all this is doing.
Yeah, we put some rate comparisons together at the back, and we added all three utilities for average residential. We used 1,000 kilowatt hours and 4,000 gallons a month for water and sewer. And you're still less than the neighboring communities.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about comparables?
And that's, yeah.
State and neighboring communities?
Let me steer you to, let's see. It's the fourth page from the back, and it's got it looks like this. And it's got all three utilities broken out. The other thing is, a lot of these other communities don't charge fire protection. You know, they're paying it through their property taxes or something. So we put even and we're comparing our rate 5 years out with their current rates. And I know Greendale's going through a big rate adjustment study right now because we're helping them with that. So they're looking at some significant water rate increases also. We showed it with the fire protection in and then took it out. It's really, without the fire protection is a more apples and apples comparison. Because the other ones are paying that through their property taxes. But
So we're still lower than everyone else around.
yeah, and this is, that's going out 5 years on our end comparing to where they are today. And I guarantee you they're all going through these same issues. I'm not sure about Aurora, but I think I know they needed it a couple years ago. I don't know if they've done anything recently.
I believe Rising Sun just had a big increase earlier this year
Yep.
as well.
Well, you know,
Yeah, and they paid for their whole sewer plant with riverboat money, so they didn't, you know,
So
But-
even after this increase, we're still very low compared to other
Yeah.
cities in the region and in the state.
Yeah.
You've done that
Yeah.
research.
yeah, we've got,
The last 3 pages are comparable cities throughout the state.
Yes.
yeah, we put some bar charts together.
And it goes without saying that if we would have been doing a rate increase every 3 years, which is recommended, that obviously these numbers would be tiny, but we've kind of kicked the can down the road and
Yeah,
you
I
guys
know,
getting the utility back to where it needs to break even.
Well, and going forward, those increases will not be $17 in the first year and things
Yeah.
like that.
As we first thought, yes.
Well, they'll be caught up, they'll be very incremental.
it's still a heck of a deal when you compare it to how much you pay for a bottle of water at the gas station. You know,
Well, and
that's-
not to kick a dead horse, but this is a culmination of Billy stepping in and really rebuilding this
Yeah.
utility from the ground up. Our old utility director used funds for things that he probably shouldn't have and ran the utility in a way that he probably shouldn't have, and now it's back to where it needs to be, but that's a result of a lot of hard work to benefit the people who live here.
Yeah. Well, you guys know that, you know, when the public looks at these things, they're gonna look at, okay, it's $19 more on a month. If you take out the fire protection, it's more like $14 a month.
yeah,
But the thing is, the numbers don't lie. And the numbers are what they are. And there's not a whole lot we can do about that. I mean, as far as the city is concerned, we're trying to do everything we can because we are going to finance projects with 0% interest. Where if the city didn't agree to do that, the rates would have been much higher.
absolutely, absolutely.
And nobody wanted that, and I commend this board up here, the utility board, and Mr. Fetty and Billy and you know, for working on this and getting it to a point where it's the most economical for our residents. And we're residents as well, you know,
Yeah,
nobody wants increases, but this is the,
you guys pay the same bills they do.
exactly. But I think this is the least amount of, you know, I don't know what hurt we can do on somebody here in the city.
It's really one of the city's most important public health and safety responsibilities is to have clean drinking water and treat the wastewater. You've still got the lowest sewer rates around, you know, I'm seeing sewer rates over 100, you know, $80, $100, $125 a month all over the place. You know, you're still gonna be at, you know, roughly $25 a month, you know, or 32 with the loan payback. Yeah, with the loan payback and the 2% inflation adjustment, you'll end up in year 5 at $32.22, and that is, you know, as low as I've, you know, today in today's world, that's unbelievable, you know. And the water rates, even, you know, even with the fire protection in it, you know, $43 a month or $42.69 a month would be, you know, and your minimum charges will be less than that, you know, so not everybody uses 4,000 gallons. Your single, elderly, widow, fixed income type customer is gonna, you know, they'll be considerably less than, you know, what we're showing here on the average bill.
Can you explain that just briefly, Buzz? All communities pay a fire protection fee. A lot of communities do that through your property taxes.
Yeah.
So you're paying it no matter what, it's just always
Right.
happened to be included in our utility rate.
Correct, correct. And that's why we showed it both ways,
Makes
because,
ours seem artificially larger.
Yeah,
Because normally that wouldn't be included in your
The other ones,
Paid in your property.
the other ones are paying it through their property tax.
So even with that, we're still lower.
Yep. And that's
Still hate to see that first year. That's a heck of an increase.
our year 5 compared to their year, 0 right now. That's that's the big nut to swallow, the water one, but, it's really one of the city's most important, just like police and fire, it's a public health and safety issue.
Tony, I hear what you're saying for sure, and if I thought we could do it, spread it over 5 years, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But our funds have gotten so low that that's what you're saying, we do need that increase.
Yeah,
I
and
mean, they're,
in '22 and '23, our operating fund dropped $760,000.
it's something we've talked about since 2021. We knew that we were gonna run out of money when we got to this point. We're there, we're knocking on that door right now. So if we had that luxury of spreading it out over 5, I'd say do it in a heartbeat. But my recommendation is to do the increase in year 1 to get us back to break even, just because our cash reserves are so low in the water fund.
And if you think of it the way I'm thinking of it, the ratepayers are losing money now because we're in that shortfall in the water. You know what I mean? So they're already losing. We're trying to get them where they're not losing. Does that make sense?
I'm not following what you're saying.
Okay.
I don't follow that either.
Well, we're already losing almost $472,000 a year,
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
So the ratepayers are already losing money. We're trying to get that money back by raising these rates.
Yeah.
They're not losing
Well,
it because they're not paying it.
It's-
They're not losing it, but they are losing it because our utilities are losing the money.
Yeah, the
The
bigger-
ratepayers make up our utilities.
it's
The bigger the hole we dig, the harder
I
it's
don't know,
gonna be.
maybe I'm not saying it right.
No, you're saying it exactly right.
Yeah.
It's like we're all in this together, right, Tommy?
Yes, well, they really are losing money until we do something. They're going to continue to lose money. If we don't fix this, we're going to continue to lose that much money a year, and they are part of our utilities.
Yeah, they're the
Our
only-
ratepayers keep our utilities going.
We're getting to the point where we don't have that money to lose.
No, I realize that. I realize that.
That's the problem. We've depleted our cash reserves to a very unhealthy. point.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it does bear saying, and we kind of know this because we talk about it a lot, but, for the public's edification, that's important because a utility is a rate-based entity. It's a break-even entity. These rates aren't for us to gain a profit.
No.
It's just to break totally even. So when there is a shortfall, eventually that has to be made up in some way. So that's what Tom means, I think, by
And-
they're losing money because eventually we have to get back to zero because that's the
And
absolute.
the Indiana code, says the rates shall be sufficient to cover cash operating expenses, depreciation, debt service, debt reserves, working capital, all those things. It's not a might or may or
Yeah.
would be nice. It's shall in the Indiana code, and that,
It's good for the public to know
That-
that there's no extra. This is just
yeah,
the
you're,
minimum that we
you're not making
possibly-
pilot payments to the city, you're not making residual equity transfers, it's the other way around. And has been, and you put it off as long as you can until you,
We're very fortunate that the utility has no debt,
Yeah.
because if your debt service was higher, your rates would be higher.
Like a new water plant or something of that nature.
And so for
Substation in.
'Cause-
a long time, the city, Riverboat Gaming subsidized utilities. And it's not the way, you can't run the utilities like that. It's not,
We need to make it sustainable.
yeah, right now, the market rates are 4%, for 15-year bonds. You're saving a bundle by having that bond bank willing to do the loan for 0% interest. That's a great deal. And
The other thing that we've worked hard on, and it's been a planned process that's been in place, we're working on true financials now. You know, we've worked very
Yeah.
hard to straighten all
Good
that
point.
out. We know exactly
Good
what our
point.
costs are. We've got a good 2-year track history. It took us 6 months to figure out this plan. We put the plan in place. We've now got 2 good years of baseline, and we know what our costs are. They're true cost, and so that's a reason I'm 100% confident in the numbers and what that break-even point is. You know, we've worked very hard to get to this point, and so that, you know, I can say without a doubt that, you know, these are real numbers. They're accurate numbers that we're working under. And like Dell said, we're not trying to create a profit. It's all the things that the state mandates that, you know, we break even on cost, we fund depreciation, and we keep enough reserves in there in case an emergency happens. That's all we're trying to do with this. Is
I think at our first meeting, that was the first slide I put up, was the IC 8-1.5-3 and 36-923, which are the, you know, the code section.
We done, I mean, when you was doing this, evaluation of things and telling how much we had to pay, we could have raised it a couple of years ago, but we didn't because we didn't know really what we should be charged.
That's why
We definitely wanted
Billy,
to know for sure.
yeah, you're exactly right. And that's why Billy, when Billy came in, we said, hey, look, we need to get a baseline.
Right.
We need to know what our true costs are. And he took 2 years to get that, to get a good baseline. And so right now, it feels like got a great baseline. We know what our true costs are.
Right.
Here's what it's gonna take in the water utility to get us back to a break even.
I mean, I've literally seen situations where communities had to double their rates and, or better. And, you know, you've wrestled, this board has not taken this lightly, I can tell you. You guys have agonized over it and deliberated conscientiously, and, you know, it's the right thing to do. And going forward, those increments won't be, you know, really, they weren't very much for electric and sewer anyway, but the water, that's sort of the new, you know, back in the 70s and 80s, the focus was on wastewater treatment and getting treatment plants, and that they keep upping those requirements, but water has gone through that. Now it's become, you know, it's going to be like gold, you know, the scarcity of water, and you're lucky you have an abundant supply here, and it's not true. I can tell you, the northwest side of Indianapolis has a real water crunch. You know, if you get up by Zionsville, Whitestown, and Lebanon, they've got serious water shortage problems
Well,
up
they gotta
there.
bring, for those new developments, they gotta bring it down from up north.
I think that got shot down. They were gonna pipe it down from the Wabash River, and I think everybody along the Wabash River started screaming.
Okay, all right, I'm gonna phrase a motion, and we can have more discussion about it, but we need to get a path forward, right? So the motion will be that we are agree to go forward on option 2, which gives us a total over 5 years, $25.21 increase in the water utility rate, or residential rate. I'll entertain a motion. Any additional
So
questions?
basically, you're not going with the break even, you're going with the debt service. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I mean,
Option 2.
I would just like to, and I know Billy, maybe his opinion is a little bit different, but, you know, my thought would be more towards the break even. And because I know that, you know, the first year it's the same option 1, option 2. You know, it's got to get our operating back to 0. It's got to get it to where
Right.
we're not losing money. I know that we have the 3 million in the fiber, which, and basically this has to do with the big project, it has to do with the water project on 50. You know, where we're at, I don't know. I know that we're still doing some engineering and stuff like that. But, you know, my thought is, we still have 3 million where basically he's not gonna be paying any payments. And it may be a year, maybe 2 years down the road, you know? And then if he starts borrowing, you know, then if it basically says it's total of 3 million total, you know, I'm looking at 15 years, I'm looking at, you know, about $16,000, $17,000 a month, you know? So, I don't know, my thought would be, you know, which gets you out 2 or 3 years, and just like Buzz says, you know, in 2 or 3 years, you probably need to look at the rates again anyway. That's just me throwing stuff out there.
That's good,
as
good, that's a
looking at
good
the finances
observation.
and stuff.
Good observation.
Yeah, just because you have a 5-year rate plan doesn't mean that you can't look at that again in
2 or 3
year
years.
3 and
Adjust accordingly.
see where you are. Because as much as you try to predict the future, nobody can really
No, I
predict
mean,
the
and
future.
same thing goes with the sewer. I mean, you know, we're looking at these consolidations with these stations and stuff, but, you know, 2 years down the road, things may change and they may come up with something new or whatever, but I do think that, you know, we definitely need to look again in 3 years or something like that.
So I've looked at, and I understand what you're saying, when I looked at the cost difference of borrowing the 3 million in the rate study, it's a difference of $4.07 a month, so.
Yeah,
that's the reason
trust me,
said,
I know it's not much, but
Yeah,
sometimes.
why not just include it as part of it, as done?
I see what you're saying there. I really do, because it's
That's where I'm
minute, it's not a
Yeah,
lot.
then we don't have to go through this again in 3 years, you know, it's a very simple rate study in 3 years to get us back to normal. So that's the reason I was recommended option 2, because it's just another $4 per month, to be able to have that built into.
Yeah.
Eh,
I'm just
we could
talking,
do-
you're talking, like I said, these
Yeah.
are the voters.
We can do either scenario, and we can live by either scenario. You know, it's just pleasure of the utility board.
I'm going with the cheapest scenario.
So what's the board have to say?
I'm going with cheapest scenario.
So option 1.
Yep.
Someone? Tom, you have any thoughts?
As long as we're making it sustainable, I mean, that's my biggest fear, man.
And just to be clear, they're both break evens. It's just
I
option
get that.
2 as the capital.
Leonard?
It's like a catch-22, I'd say option 1 too myself.
Brett?
Same for me.
Okay. Let me rephrase the motion. I entertain a motion to approve option 1, which is the break-even option, at a total of, I believe it's $21.14 over the 5 years, on the water utility. I'd entertain a motion to approve that path forward.
So moved.
Got a first, got a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Can I get a roll call, please, since we got a missing?
All right, we got Board Member Tony Abbott,
Aye.
Board Member Tommy Roulette,
Aye.
Board Member Lenny Fryman,
Aye.
Board Member Brett Bondurant,
Aye.
and of course, Dylan Little is absent.
Okay, so passes 4-0. Are we doing anything with electric? We don't have to do it, we're not making any
We-
ordinance changes on the electric.
Well, there will be an ordinance change, because one thing we do when we do a base rate, there'll be no increase for residential, but we would roll the tracking, the ECA tracking, and recalibrate that.
Okay.
And I think we used the 2023 rates. I have to look back at that, but, so that'll be the benchmark for the future trackers going forward.
For tonight's purpose, we don't need a vote on a path forward on the electric.
But we are changing the demand rates for the large power customers, and minor tweaks on on the commercial rates. But overall, we're not asking for more money in total. We're just,
Rates will be unchanged. on
the residential rates are not changed. It's just recalibrating the tracker.
So, yeah, you gotta be careful how you say that,
Right.
because the tracker gets reset to 0, which means the cost per kilowatt hour is gonna go up from what it is right now. But it resets it.
It washes out,
Resets the
yeah.
tracker to 0, and everything's a break even, 0%.
And if you remember, I think the first conversation we had like a $2 and something increase
In the base rate.
in the base rate.
Right.
And that, this is taking that away.
We took that out, yeah.
I say that right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, just want to reiterate though to the public that this is a vote tonight was on a path forward to create the ordinance. It's a decent amount of time until we'll be able to get the ordinance in front of this board again. Or actually, we'll go before the USB or the council.
Council.
Goes in front of council for an ordinance.
Gotta have a public hearing on
But there would be a public hearing, so, but we had to have a path forward. Buzz, I want to thank you for your time, and Billy, of course, and your staff, and I want to thank you guys. I know, listen, I know you're going to hear it from a person or two. I get it. I'll hear it. I understand. But I think we have a pretty good understanding of how we can answer this. And I think our answers are, they're truthful, and that's the way it should be. So, thank you for making the hard decisions, guys. Anything else tonight? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
All righty, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hey.
Motion carried.
Man.